High on Olympus, the goddess Hera was furious. She had just discovered that the goddess Leto was pregnant by her husband Zeus. Furious, the goddess forbade Leto to give birth anywhere with solid ground. No land sheltered the pregnant goddess. She wandered a long time without any destination, feeling the pains of childbirth. Suddenly, she found the floating island of Delos. This island, not being connected to the earth, was not covered by the ban of the Queen of the Gods. Leto was able to give birth there. To her surprise, she did not give birth to only one child, but two. First Artemis was born, and then Apollo. Apollo was beautiful and blonde, the perfect representation of the sun. Artemis had white skin and black hair, resembling the moon. The black hair symbolized the night around her. After learning of the birth of Leto's children, the goddess Hera went berserk and decided to send the serpent Python to chase and devour the newborns. The goddess Leto wandered the world, fleeing from the serpent that chased mother and children, aiming to devour them. Once, she and her baby children were thirsty and found a small pond. On the bank were rude peasants, who violently forbade the goddess and her children to drink water. To stop her, the peasants stirred the bottom of the pond with their feet, so that the mud mixed with the water, preventing it from being drunk. Consumed by rage, Leto turned the peasants into frogs, forcing them to spend the rest of their lives shrieking around the pond. The little gods grew up, and Zeus offered them very powerful bows, made especially for them by Hephaestus. Artemis fell in love with the offer and began to dedicate her life to hunting. She became goddess of the hunt. Apollo, with the powerful bow in his hands, could only think of one thing: to take revenge on the serpent that tormented his mother for so long. Zeus told his son where the beast's lair was, and he headed there to kill it. The beast was in a cave at the foot of Mount Parnassus, where it hibernated, as nothing threatened it. Apollo instigated the serpent to come out of hiding by shooting incandescent arrows into the cave. Python came out of the lair, thirsty for blood and wanting to devour its opponent. Apollo fired successive arrows at the monster, but they bounced off the hard scales that protected the snake. The god looked for a weak spot in the beast, while dodging its dangerous blows. Confident, the young man shot 2 arrows at once. One hit the python's eye, and the other hit the beast's chest, which was covered by thinner scales. The heart had been wounded, and the beast was roaring in pain. Apollo shot one last arrow, which entered the beast's mouth and killed it. Python died, and over its dead body, Apollo decreed that a sacred temple would be built there in its honor. This place became the Oracle of Delphi, where priestesses known as Pythonesses made the most diverse prophecies. Apollo established himself as one of the most important deities on Olympus after exterminating the fearsome serpent Python. The god paraded around with his bow and arrows, brimming with pride. This weapon is one of his symbols. The archer god found Eros, the god of love, training his aim. Despite his childlike figure, he had an elegant and noble bearing with his bow. Feeling jealous of the boy god, who majestically handled the bow, Apollo decided to mock Eros's talent. "Hey boy, what do you think you are doing handling that noble instrument so carelessly? Don't you know why the whole world refers to the bow as Apollo's weapon? With it, I defeated the most terrible of monsters." Eros didn't give in to the provocations. He turned his back on Apollo and started to walk away, but the sun god continued his provocations. "That's right, walk away. With your lousy aim, you'll never achieve a feat like mine." Apollo's offense exceeded the patience of the god of love. He waited for Apollo to turn around and quickly took one of his golden arrows, and he fired his weapon, striking the heart of the god Apollo, who fell to his knees. Eros had never defeated a great monster before, but he had just brought down one of the most powerful gods to his knees. His arrow did not physically wound the god, but Apollo was under the full influence of love. After recovering, the solar god met a beautiful nymph, Her name was Daphne, daughter of Peneus, a river god. Apollo immediately fell in love with the young woman, but Eros had not yet completed the lesson he wanted to teach the god. He shot a lead arrow and struck Daphne's heart, causing her to feel repulsion from Apollo. The god of light tried to approach the nymph, but she immediately turned away. "Why do you run away from me? Don't you see that I am the god Apollo, the god of beauty, music, and prophecy?" said Apollo, full of pride. "Your figure disgusts me. Don't come near me. I'd rather give myself up to a disgusting satyr." However, Apollo could not resist the powers of passion and tried to approach the nymph. She attempted to run away, but Apollo pursued her. When the god was about to catch up with her, the nymph ran into the water of her father's river and said, "Father, please, I beg you. I am tired of running away. Take away my beauty, as it is becoming a real curse." Peneus, the river god, helped his daughter. The moment Apollo grabbed her, Daphne began to transform into a tree. Daphne had turned into a tree, and the desolate Apollo was kissing and hugging the tree-shaped nymph. And as he tried to grab the nymph's hair, only laurel leaves remained in his hands. Daphne had turned into a laurel tree. Resigned, Apollo said, "I was denied the opportunity to love you, but from this day forward you will be my sacred plant. With your leaves I will make a laurel wreath, which I will wear and allow to those who triumph." And from that day on, the laurel wreath became a symbol of glory. Apollo would deeply regret having had a disagreement with the god of love. After that day, Apollo was no longer lucky in love.
Hermes was born of the union of Zeus and Maia. His mother was one of the Pleiades, daughters of the Titan Atlas. When this god was still a baby, his mother kept him concealed inside a cave, sleeping under the care of Hypnos. However, noticing that his guardian had fallen asleep, the small god escaped from the cave and started to explore the world. As he wandered through the region of Thessaly, Hermes encountered Apollo, who was taking care of his flock. The young god decided that he would conquer those splendid animals, and he waited for the sunset to initiate his theft. Hermes opened the gate and took 50 head of cattle with him. But he knew that he needed a good strategy, otherwise Apollo would easily find him. So, he attached tree branches to the animals' tails, so that the leaves would sweep his footsteps. In some occasions, he forced the cattle to take a different route, where the oxen would march backwards, giving the impression that the cattle were headed in the other direction. Yet halfway through his path, Hermes is spotted by a man who asked him, "What is a boy doing with so many head of cattle?" Hermes knew that he did not have a proper answer to that, and decided to bribe the man.
"I'll give you a head of cattle if you don't tell anyone you saw me."
"I'll not. You can trust me." The god continued his journey, but remained suspicious, and so he decided to return disguised as a man. "Did you see a kid with cattle passing by this place? If you help me, I'll give you a great reward."
"Yes, of course I did. He went in that direction."
"Stay here. I will get your reward." The god walked to a mountain and tore a large chunk, throwing it on the man's head.
"There you go. The great reward that you deserve."
When he arrived in the Peloponnese, Hermes sacrificed part of the flock in honor of the gods. After his offering, the god found a turtle shell and, making use of the tendons of the sacrificed oxen, he invented a musical instrument that would be known as the lyra. Hermes returned home and lied in his cradle. Apollo realized that he had been robbed and went after his flock. Hermes' tricks conceal the villain's identity. The god was then forced to use his powers that turned everything obscure into something as clear as the sunlight. And so he reached Hermes' hideout. There the baby slept peacefully. Apollo forced Maia to wake the baby, to have him reveal where his flock was.
"Can't you see that that child is sleeping quietly? How could he have done all that you are mentioning?"
Furious and embarrassed, Apollo said, I don't know how he did it. I just know he did it.
Do you want to tell me that one of the most powerful gods of the Olympus was deceived by a baby? Isn't that impossible?
At that point, Hermes started strumming his lyre, and the sound of the instrument touched Apollo's heart, who was dazzled by the object and said, "Give me that instrument as a gift, and everything will be forgotten." Hermes agreed, and from that, the brother gods established a friendly bond. Apollo gave him his caduceus and blessed his brother with gifts that would make him a deity worthy of being among the most important of Mount Olympus. Zeus welcomed him there with winged sandals, transforming him into a messenger god. The story of the theft of Apollo's flock reached the whole world, and Hermes started to be revered by all kinds of crooks, becoming known as the god of thieves as well.
Pan, the god of the woods, was always a deity despised by his peers. However, after inventing the syringe flute, his musical talent blossomed, and the god was followed and respected wherever he went. Pan used to wander through the woods and meadows with his new friend, King Midas. The latter was known for his ability to turn everything he touched into gold. But this talent became a curse. After his golden touch was removed by Dionysus, Midas repudiated the vile metal and lived modestly in the forests. It was there that he met Pan, and the two became great friends. The ego of the god of the woods began to grow due to the praise of those who listened to his songs. Pan began to believe that he was the greatest musician ever, and started to boast about it. But in the audience, a nymph said that the god Apollo could very well be the greatest of all musicians. "Even Apollo's lyre is obscured before the magnificent sound of my flute. Since he is so good, why doesn't he challenge me to a musical duel?"
My friend, it's not smart to challenge Apollo. He is the god of music.
Whose side are you on?
You know we are friends, and I will always support you.
Pan's challenge reached Apollo's ears, who quickly accepted it and left for the place marked for the clash. "So, are you the one who has been saying that you can defeat the god of music in a dispute?" "The god of music, the god of the sun, the god of prophecy. You have accumulated many roles, but today I will relieve you of one." "Ah, you couldn't even beat Orpheus, my mortal son, let alone the great Apollo." The gods, nymphs, and other forest creatures gathered to listen to the greatest musical contest ever. Pan took up his flute and began the concert. His skill was remarkable. The melody thrilled all listeners. The god of the woods finished his music and was cheered. He would hardly be defeated. But the god Apollo was undeterred. After tuning his lyre, he prepared to play his music. The god's chords were perfect. The harmony was absolute. No sound could be more divine. The audience shouted bravo. The nymph's eyes dripped tears of emotion. Victory seemed evident. The men pointed to Apollo as the winner. The nymphs and the fauns, although they liked both, also chose the sun god. Midas would have to give his verdict. He looked at his friend, who was dejected at the impending defeat.
Today Apollo moved everyone with his music, but Pan's flute was no less than perfect. I declare Pan superior.
Midas knew that Apollo had already won the contest, and decided to give his friend a consolation vote. But he didn't expect the reaction of the god Apollo, who wanted to humiliate Pan with a unanimous victory. The god approached Midas and said, "You seem to have an interest in music, but I believe those ears of yours are not useful to you. But I can fix that." Apollo used his powers to punish Midas. "There you go. With these new ears, everyone will recognize what a great music critic you are." Hyacinth was a young man of great beauty. His beauty was so immense that he even attracted two deities. One of them was Apollo, the god of music and prophecies. The other was Zephyrus, also known as the West Wind. Hyacinth was amused by Zephyrus. He flied across the sky alongside the god, piercing the clouds. With Apollo, the youngster rejoiced with the songs played by the brilliant god. The boy and the god became quite intimate. Hyacinth spent his days beside the god of music, doing all sorts of things. Realizing that he had been left out, Zephyrus started to nurture a great grief in his heart. One day, Apollo and Hyacinth decided to throw the discus. After preparing himself to throw it, Apollo launched the disc with incredible strength. The disc reached a stunning height. Hyacinth was ready to catch it, which descended at high speed. But the jealous Zephyrus blew the disc away, suddenly changing its trajectory. The disc fell to the ground, and after the rebound, hit Hyacinth's head with violence. Apollo ran to rescue the boy whom he treasured so much. The god tried to use his powers to save Hyacinth's life, but not even the mighty Apollo could change Hyacinth's fate, traced by the Moirai. The beautiful boy died in Apollo's arms. Beautiful flowers started to sprout where Hyacinth's blood drops fell. Apollo felt guilty for ending Hyacinth's life at the peak of his youth, and in tribute to his friend, the god wrote his most beautiful songs, which were also the saddest and most melancholic. But with the arrival of spring, the god rejoiced, because the beautiful flowers born of the young's blood reappeared, and these came to be known by the name of Hyacinth. King Priam of Troy had more than 50 children. Among them were the twins Cassandra and Helenus. Early in their infancy, their father decided that they would be given to serve in the temple of Apollo. One day, when they were still children, they both played in Apollo's temple and forgot the time to return home. As it was already late, they decided to sleep in the temple. During the night, a serpent sent by Apollo licked the youngsters' ears, and thus they received the gift of prophecy. Young Cassandra grew up to be a beautiful woman who marveled the god Apollo. The god declared his love for the young girl, but she rejected him. Apollo managed to hide his anger at her rejection and asked her for only one kiss. When the young woman brought her lips close to the god, he spat in her mouth and cursed her. Cassandra still had the power of prophecy, but had lost the power of persuasion. In this way, no one ever believed in her prophecies again. Cassandra came to be seen and treated as crazy. If poor Cassandra had not rejected the god Apollo, the great bloodbath that was coming could have been avoided.
Apollo, the god of music and prophecy, had fallen in love with Coronis, a young woman of matched beauty. The god and the young mortal became lovers. But Coronis did not have the same passion as Apollo had for her. The young woman was fond of a simple mortal known as Ischys, with whom she had relations. A white bird, seeing Coronis's infidelity, flew to Olympus to disclose what happened to Apollo, telling him he was being betrayed. The god was consumed by wrath. The messenger bird, who had brought the news of the young woman's betrayal, became a victim of Apollo's fury. The white-feathered bird turned into pitch black, and its descendants are known today as crows. Apollo would have no mercy on Coronis. The god was ruthless and struck the young girl with one of his arrows. Apollo, present at Coronis's cremation, was surprised because he did not know that the young woman was pregnant from him. Apollo took the child, still alive, from the flames. This child would be known as Asclepius. Apollo put his son under the care of Chiron, who taught him the healing arts. Asclepius became an outstanding healer. Because of his miraculous cures, he became well known throughout Greece. While relying on medical arts, he treated the pain of many people and saved the lives of many others. Asclepius never stopped studying new treatments that fought the ills of men. Apollo's son wandered the earth, healing all those who asked him for help. But when the doctor unearthed a way to avoid death, his deeds began to attract the attention of the gods of Olympus. Hades complained to Zeus. His subterranean kingdom stopped receiving new subjects. But when Asclepius brought a dead man back to life, he tarnished the laws devised by Zeus. These laws promoted order where chaos had reigned before. Zeus decided to strike the famous doctor with one of his bolts. Apollo was furious with Zeus for killing his son, but he could not challenge the supreme god, so he decided to take revenge on his father by killing the Cyclops. The one-eyed creatures were responsible for making Zeus's thunderous bolts. Informed of the Cyclops' death, Zeus punished Apollo and expelled him from Olympus for a long time. The god found shelter in the court of King Admetus. After his death, Asclepius was worshipped almost like a god by those who struggled with physical malaise. No mortal before him had received such honors. And his famous rod, where a serpent is intertwined, became the symbol of medicine. In ancient Rome, Asclepius was known as Aesculapius, honored as the god of medicine and healing.